Hi, thanks for joining me. So today I want to do a vlog and talk about my year in review for 2017 in gaming. Now, this is going to be interesting because I'm going to take a moment here to go over a lot of games that I haven't talked about this year. And that's my own negligence. Really, I just don't have my act together right now. So it's hard for me to, do reviews and capture footage and talk about the kind of stuff that I've been wanting to talk about. So, but I think this will be fun actually to go over, review everything that I've played. This seemed like a light year in gaming for me, but there's actually a lot of stuff here, so I think it'll be interesting for you guys, and certainly for me as well. So, I'm going to start off with a handful of games that I tried. Alright, these are games that I didn't finish. Some of them I'm not going to finish. Some of them I just played some and put them down, and I'm planning to go back to them. So these are like the games I played some of this year, and then we'll get to the ones that I finished or played a significant amount of. Starting off with Schoolgirl Zombie Hunter. I did put a video up about this. It was just some simple gameplay while I was talking about, I don't know, the Nintendo Switch or something like that. You guys can check out that video if you want. This I just played some of, and I haven't gone back to it. Now, I would say that my big issue with this so far, I guess one was I was warned. A bunch of people warned me in the comments, and I appreciate it. They're like, dude, this game's not all that good. And, I have to admit, from what I've played of it, it doesn't seem all that good. I don't know that it's all that bad, but it's not as fun as I was expecting for the amount that I played of it. I really want to play some more of this. I'm actually kind of excited that this is coming out here. It hadn't been slated for a release. I forget who picked this up, Xseed or somebody. Don't quote me on that. I'm just making stuff up. Someone is releasing this here, and it's I don't know when it's coming out, but I assume it's going to be next year. I'll put an annotation or something. So anyway, my main issue with this is I would say it seems more like a budget game. And honestly, like D3's releases like this usually are budget games. So it's a little disappointing for me to have seen this, like on PlayAsia at least, come out at $60. And I imported it and I played some of it and I was like, it's alright, but it just doesn't seem like a $60 game. So, I don't know, I'll be curious to see what this is released for here in terms of price when it comes out. But, maybe my expectations are also a little unrealistic because of this game. This was sort of like the last D3. Oh, this was from Axia. That's probably where I got that from. This was the last sort of D3 like janky Onechon but a game that I played that it's super fun. This game is so much fun, and it is a kind of a budget release. We actually got a really nice, almost a special edition here. I guess it was a special edition, or a launch edition or something. That was affordable. Like, it was like, I don't know, 40 or 50 bucks or something. It wasn't full price. So, I guess that set expectations for this that weren't met. So, but I've only really tried that out, so I need to play some more of it. I may get it in its localized form if the price is right. That's really going to be the big deciding factor. And another game that was released in this year since I picked it up in Japanese is Four Goddesses Online. Now, you guys might remember I was pretty excited about this. I played like, I don't know, whatever, hour of it, and then I never played it again. And I feel so bad about that. But I guess one thing I might say is that it failed to like really hook me in that first hour that I played. But I really didn't give it a fair shake. I think in my defense, I moved. I was moving, I was packing, I was busy, and it's disrupted my life, and I just haven't gotten, like I said, I haven't gotten my act together since then. So this was one I popped in, I played it, I put it down, I'd like to pick it back up again. Just an FYI, reviews for this are kind of saying that, it's alright. It's not the best Neptunia game out there. I think expectations were a little bit high for this because there's a new graphics engine, and there have already been a handful of action-based Neptunia games, and this one just looked really cool, and I think people are like, it's alright, but it didn't quite live up to the expectations that, people may have for it, which I would say, I expect that's going to be my experience with it. Next up, I tried out some Project Diva X. Now, this is another one I just played a little bit, then I put it down. Honestly, this just sort of seems like more of the same. I think this seems like another one of those ones that I don't know if they really put quite as much effort into as you know, some of the like Project Diva F, but I don't know, you know, I only played some of it, so I think I need to go back and play some more. There was something about this, and I'm not going to remember it. I played this quite a while ago now. There was something about the mechanics, like the collection mechanics or something like that, that they changed that I don't think I was as big a fan of as I was like the stuff in Project Diva F. But you know, I like these games, and I anticipate that I'll come back and play some more of this because I like Vocaloid music, and you know, a rhythm game now and then is a lot of fun. Next is Berserk and the Band of the Hawk. Now this almost counts as like a game that I played this year, but I put it down, and I didn't really intend to put it down. Again, I played this before I moved. While I was moving, I got super busy. I put it aside, and I just haven't picked it up again. I will say that from what I've played, this wasn't all that I was hoping for from this game. But that said, it is still a really cool Warriors game. With all the Berserk characters and the Berserk lore and storyline and stuff like that. So this has been fun. I've enjoyed what I've played of this. I just haven't picked it back up again. Another game I tried this year, again, is Dead or Alive 5. You guys know that I dig the Dead or Alive games in general. I like the fighting games. I like the beach volleyball games, and you know, I figured, well, like, the beach volleyball games were kind of my introduction to a lot of the new characters in 5. I should play the fighting game. And I've tried playing this several times now. I've tried playing it on the Vita, I've tried playing it on the PlayStation 3. I haven't tried the PlayStation 4 version, but I just don't like how the story mode plays in this. I don't know what it is. The character designs threw me off initially as well, but just the story mode in this, it seems like the kind of thing I should like. It seems pretty cool. It seems like they were ambitious with it and tried something new. I just don't like it. It's hard for me to get into. So, there's that. And next game I tried actually is not Tomb Raider. It's Rise of the Tomb Raider. Yeah, I checked out Rise of the Tomb Raider, and suffice to say, I was enjoying it quite a bit, actually, right up until I got to a point that I was hoping they had cut from the game. Because this game I really enjoyed, except for the ridiculous cover-based shooting segments, which got sort of more and more frequent towards the end of the game. Now, I was able to overlook it when I played this game, but I played this game a number of years ago, and you know, for various reasons, I may have had more patience. I may have had different expectations, and I was just willing to put up with it. In the new Tomb Raider game, I got to that cover-based shooty spot where you're like in this choke point, and there's just like wave of guys after wave of guys coming in, and just like I just died like maybe 4 times, and I was like, I'm done. I took out the disc, I uninstalled the game, I put it on eBay, and I sold it. I just don't have the patience for that. So, unfortunate, because I thought the Tomb Raider reboot was pretty cool, but I'm done. I've got better things to do. So now we've gotten up to the games that I've, for the most part, I've played a significant amount of, finished or played, you know, as much of them as I'm probably going to play, or at least a significant amount that I'm planning to come back to at a later point. So first on this list, Valhalla Knights 3. Now, by all rights, I should have done a review for this. I wanted to do a review for this. I played it very early in the year, I think right in January, and I loved this game. I liked this game probably way more than it deserves. I mean, and that's hard to say because I think it deserves to be liked. This is a really cool game, but it's hard to describe because I think a lot of the things I like about it they're not really things that paint it in a good light, if that makes any sense. So, for starters, like, this basically, as far as I can describe it, it plays like a, kind of like an MMO offline. So, it's got a really interesting world. You start off as a sort of a prisoner. So there's these, like, 2 warring kingdoms. It's so cheesy. This is one of the things I really like about this, is it's super cheesy. And not everyone likes cheese, you know, it's corny, it's goofy. Not everyone likes that, and I get it, but I love it. When it hits that right chord, I can't get enough of it. And that's what this game did. So, you're essentially infiltrating this prison as a prisoner who has been captured by the enemy, and is like, you've become a double agent. So it's like right off the bat, it's super goofy. And this prison is sort of like a prison, but it's like, it's sort of this little world unto itself, where like they throw all these people like here as prisoners to kind of like imprison them, but at the same time, like, I don't know, like a lot of these people sort of are employed like running around killing monsters and stuff like that. It doesn't have to make any sense. It's just one of those games, and it's fun. It also has like this, it has this shamelessly ridiculous mechanic where you have these stores. Some of the stores in the game are like these, they're almost like these cabarets. So you go into the store, and instead of like just buying what you want and leaving, it's like this experience where you go and like you're like you sit down with this girl, and I think it's just girls. I don't think there's no, like, I don't think you play as like a female character and then like be like waited on by guys. But I forget. I played as a male character, and I was waited on by the ladies. So basically, like, they wait on you, and like you just chat with them, and then like you can like buy your stuff that you need, and you can also like get quests, I believe, from the stores. So there is actually like a store in the lower district that you can just go and buy stuff, and you can also like receive and put the finished quests there, turn in quests. So but I think some of the quests you're only going to be able to get from like some of the stores. So anyway, it's kind of fun. It's a cool, interesting, weird mechanic, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, and it basically introduces like a romantic adventure game element to this, where there's just a romance element. Like, you can basically like win one of the girls by the end of the game that you've like also like spent money on at the store, and they're like it's a little sketchy, but anyway, it's fine. It's fun in the context of this game, and I don't know, man, I loved this frickin' game. The whole like grindy mechanics of it, of like leveling up your skills. You've got like a whole bunch of skills that you can use. You've got a whole party that you can customize, which unfortunately, like, some of the characters swap in and out based on the story and stuff sometimes, which is pretty annoying, but most of them don't. I believe you can recruit characters, and then like you basically customize them with like the character classes you want, and you know, all that kind of stuff, the equipment that you want and everything. And I love the way the character classes work in this. There's a whole bunch of classes, different ones unlock later. You can like, it's fun to like, I think you can mix and match the skills a little bit too from different classes. If you get into that sort of fiddly stuff, I wouldn't call myself, like, if you just asked me, do I like grinding and fiddling with like character classes and equipment and stuff, I would say no, I don't enjoy that. But I do enjoy it in the right context, when it's done well, and in this, I think it's done really well. That said, it's also like a low budget game, and like some of the stuff, it's so charmingly bad in some respects. Like, the dungeons are like, they're ridiculous. Like, you just go into them, and they're just like these there's no design to them all that much. They're just like these corridors and rooms, and it's just, but I love it. I loved going into these like crummy dungeons and like scouring them for like loot and killing monsters and stuff. It was super fun. I really liked this game. Like I said, maybe more than I should. I don't think everyone's gonna love this the way I do, but it was a super fun game. I beat it. The ending was super cheesy. It was everything that I could have hoped for. So next we have Zoldner X2 Prototype, final prototype. So this is a game that actually I was super excited about when the first one came out. This was a like PlayStation Network, I think, exclusive download game, digital only. And you know, I was experimenting with digital only games at the time, and it's a super cool looking shoot 'em up. Now this finally came out. I think this is one of those ones that it was digital only, limited run, I think, to the release of these, and so far I don't want to wait in line. I don't like how limited run does their stuff, and maybe this is just me as a collector feeling kind of snubbed, but I'm just like, if you can't pre-order titles from, like, you know, that are being limitedly released, I just don't want to have anything to do with it. I'm not gonna like log in at 10 a.m. whatever time and try to get my stuff, and then it sells out, and then they do another run, another run, but like they hold some in reserve so you can try again. I just don't care. I'm not gonna put up with that bullshit. But anyway, thankfully PlayAsia also hopped on board, and or whatever it is, East Asia Soft. I don't know if they're actually associated directly with PlayAsia, but PlayAsia was the distributor for this game. I also was a retailer of this game. I'm able to occasionally, when PlayAsia offers like wholesale prices on stuff, because I'm doing my business, I can get like their wholesale prices on like releases like this. So I actually sold quite a few of these, which I was glad to be able to do. As always, you can find my stuff on eBay, so check there. But I've long since sold out of these. However many I ended up selling, like I don't know, 15 or 14 or something like that. But yeah, it was good. It was fun. This is a cool shoot 'em up. The first one had this like one really hard part that I never was able to get by. This one doesn't have any of that. It does have some challenging stuff, and I'm of two minds about the way that they decided to do the progression through this game. So basically, like, you play a level, and in order to get to the next level or the level after that or something like that, you need like a certain number of keys or something. But you find the keys in the levels that you've been playing. So like, that's fair enough. But sometimes they're really weird. Like, you have to shoot certain things. Sometimes they're all grouped way together. Sometimes they're like spread out across the levels. And a lot of times they're a little tricky to get. Like, some of them are super easy, and then some of them are pretty challenging. So it's an interesting way of managing the progression through a shoot 'em up. And I didn't hate it. I mean, it was the gameplay is certainly fun. I really enjoyed just the regular shoot 'em up gameplay. You play through a level, you fight some mid bosses, you fight an end boss. It was good. I really liked the gameplay in this. It's just like sort of the progression mechanic, threw me off a little bit. I wasn't a huge fan. That said, this is a good game. I really enjoyed it. I finished it. I think there is some replay to this, but I felt like, basically like the way they do that whole progression mechanic, like you kind of have to replay the levels like over and over and over again. So in some ways, maybe it's a way to just pad out the length of the game. But I mean, it felt like it got you a little bit more of your money's worth out of the game, I guess, for what that's worth. So maybe it was a good call on their part. I had fun with this. I enjoyed my time with it. I don't think I'm going to go back and play more of it, but it's a cool game. If you like shoot 'em ups, especially, you want something cool to play on your Vita, definitely get that game. It's totally worth it. Next up is Earthdawn. Now, this is a game I was hinting at a little bit. I have footage captured for this. I'd really like to do a review for this. I haven't quite finished it, and I should now go back and finish this up. But I actually really liked this game. This is also, like, it kind of reminds me of Valhalla Knights 3. I wouldn't say I like this as much as I like Valhalla Knights 3, but it's a little budget, but at the same time, like, with what they have to work with, they do a really good job of kind of making it relatively fun and worth your while to like go through basically these side-scrolling action dungeons. So it's like a hack and slash game, sort of a run and gun hack and slash. And I basically play it as completely a hack and slash. I don't really like the shooting mechanics in this, but you can kind of play it like whatever way you want. There are different styles of weapons. You've got like just swords, sort of regular like long swords, short swords, but you have like great swords, you've got bows, you've got guns, you've got all kinds of different things, and basically what you're doing is you're grinding through these levels, and you're trying to basically like upgrade your stuff. You're collecting materials to like craft new weapons and new armor and stuff like that, and it's sort of structured around these missions that you go on as part of like you're like a team. I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like the world is sort of like Gears of War, I guess, where you're fighting this alien menace, and you're all these super soldiers who have been like modified by alien technology. But I really like the art style. That's one of the things that drew me into this. I believe this is Japanese developed, but it feels a little indie, but it's like, it reminds me a little bit of games from Vanillaware. It sort of almost looks like somebody was like, hey, Vanillaware makes these cool looking like 2D action games. I can draw like them. Let's we can do something kind of like that. And so it's like not maybe quite the level of polish of like a Vanillaware game, but it's similar. And I dig it. I really like the art style. I like the gameplay. I sort of like the mission-based setting, and it also has this really cool like skill upgrade mechanic. It looks kind of complicated because it's like this huge list of abilities that you can like just add bonuses to as you unlock them, and it's like all sort of like tied into like this sort of brain like spinal stem coming down. Like it's just a sort of a graphic, but it kind of represents the fact that like you're modifying your body as sort of like this alien cyborg like hybrid. It's interesting. The little story segments are kind of fun. It's just a good game. I really like it, and it's also, I believe, a budget title, so I think it's really worth the amount of money that you spend on it. So I've really enjoyed my time with Earthstone. Haven't heard anybody talk about this. It's a cool game. Next up, I'll try to be a little less long-winded, but I did really like those games, so I wanted to really give you guys the lowdown. No Man's Sky. I've already talked about this a bit this year in a video. I played the new content for this, which, I was surprised to find out that they've really been releasing new content for this for quite a while. But there was a big update, and I downloaded it, and it's really cool. I like the whole base building mechanics and a lot of the new stuff. There's a whole new like kind of main storyline, which I actually haven't finished. So, but I feel like I've gotten a lot out of this game. Coming back to it a second time, I really cracked out really hardcore to this for like another week or more, and it was super fun. So I think I've talked about this already, but No Man's Sky, good the second time around. I also enjoyed it kind of the first time I played it too, but the new content's really cool. I also played and finished King of Fighters 14. The King of Fighters 14 on PlayStation 4. I like fighting games. I like versus fighting games. I think if you guys, and not as many people, watched my Thanksgiving video where I talk about my history with video gaming, I'd encourage you to go back and check that out if you haven't watched it. But I kind of talk about the origins of like versus fighting games and myself, and really that it's been a very social, like hanging out with my friends and playing games thing, has been versus fighters. My buddies and I have played versus fighters for years and years and years. So so I have a bit of history with them. If you ask me like what my favorite genres of games are, versus fighters would not be on there. But when it comes down to it, I do know, like I've learned some characters over the years. I don't think of myself as a versus fighting game player, but I do really enjoy playing them socially with my buddies, and I have the skills a little bit, not good skills, but some skills with some characters in some games. So so yeah, this was totally fun. It was super nostalgic to play this. This is, I'm sure, one of those things you don't need to play every iteration of the game that comes out, but this felt a little budget. As far as I know, like they did some big graphics update to it, but it looks good. I think it looks really nice. The story mode is just like whatever, but it's all that stuff that you've come to expect from King of Fighters. You can play your team battles. You can choose like just individual one-on-one. I like to pick a couple characters from different teams. I kind of like playing King and Iori. I feel like King and Iori play somewhat similarly. Maybe they don't, but I'm really used to their movesets. And of course, I usually play Mai because she's got the jiggly, and her moveset is actually also like pretty easy to pull off. So I like playing them. Sometimes I'll throw in some other extra characters, but that's probably my main like 3-man team. And I love this. It was fun. I think this is the kind of thing you'd expect to just have some fun with your buddies playing, and yeah, and if you really get into it, I mean, you can play it online. I'm not gonna do that. So, next, Diablo 3. Now it's interesting. So I've ended up with several, well, maybe just two, a couple of games here that I'm playing updated content for. This is something that's kind of new about this gen of gaming, where you can, have a game come out, and then years later you're having it continue to be updated with content that's interesting to go back and play. I actually really like Diablo 3. This again is kind of a social thing. It's fun to play with buddies online, but it took me until this year to really realize that pretty much everything I liked about Phantasy Star Online is the same stuff I like about Diablo 3. And you can kind of flip that around. I'm realizing that all of those people that loved playing Diablo 2 probably loved playing Diablo 2 for the same reasons that I loved playing Phantasy Star Online. I think that they're very, very similar when it really comes down to it. But this game is fun to play with your buddies, and what I ended up doing is I've played a couple of the seasons. They finally brought, I guess this has been going on PC for a long time, where they'll have a season, so it's something like maybe, 3 months, 6 months, it's some number of months, 3, 4, 5 months, where you basically can just roll a new character, or I think you can kind of re-roll your original character. Not that you really roll them, they don't change their stats, but you basically start them off at level 0, level 1. And so you play again from scratch, getting all new stuff. But the cool thing is, each season has its own challenges, and as you do those challenges, you unlock stuff, you can get equipment for your different classes, and you're getting experience and whatever it is, Paragon points or something, and all that stuff transfers over to your existing characters too when you're done with the season. So it's basically like an excuse to go back and play the game again, sort of the leveling part, not necessarily the end game. But you're pretty much expected to get to the end game within half of the challenges, and then the other half of the challenges are all end game stuff. So I don't know, it's fun. I've done 2 seasons now. I think I did season 10, and now I think we're doing 12. So I played season 12 just recently. I've put it down, and I may pick it back up again. I don't know. I skipped season 11 entirely. Just I had other stuff to do. But the seasons are fun, so I've been enjoying Diablo 3 this year. Next is Final Fantasy XII. Now, I'm still playing this, and it's fun. I'm really enjoying this game. This was kind of a tough game to get into, and I don't even remember. Did this come out last year? There should be. It's copyright 2016, so maybe it was the very end of 2016. So yeah, a year ago. My buddy got this for me for Christmas when it came out, and I just hadn't played it. I mean, you guys know, like I said, I was moving, and I was trying these other games and stuff like that. Finally, just a week or so ago, I decided to put this in and start playing it. It's good. The whole premise of this, it seemed weird. It is weird. It took me a little while to get my head around it. It took me a little while to kind of come around to the whole the way that the story and the world are presented. Basically, you're playing these 4 dudes on a road trip. I mean, as far as Final Fantasy games go, that's pretty weird, but when you think about it, I mean, go back to Final Fantasy I, the first game. In a way, you're playing 4 dudes on a road trip, so it's an adventure. So this is kind of a reimagining of what is a Final Fantasy adventure, what is going on in an adventure like. And it's really weird because the setting, it's like the US. It feels like maybe the Southwest a little bit. Not that I've actually even visited that area of the country, but it's weird because in some ways it feels really familiar, and it's all structured around. It's almost like the dev team just took a vacation to the U.S. and it's like, all right, this is what we're making our game about. Basically you get a car, you got to make sure it runs, you got to get it gas, you go from gas station to gas station, where that's actually where, and diners where you get your missions from. It's so strange, but it's kind of unique, and I guess I'm glad that they did this with Final Fantasy, because I guess it needed something. It needed something to be a little different, and this is, you know. It was weird and off-putting, but it's kind of a big open world where there's also like these main story missions. So the story missions, it's weird, like they're like, you're not going to be able to like come back for a while, so are you really sure you want to do this story mission? And then you do the story mission and it's like, you know, you get to go back to doing your open world stuff like a half hour later. So it seems like they make more of a big deal about it, that part, than they need to. It's essentially, there's kind of an open world game where you can do like a lot of side quests. Some of the side quests aren't all that good, but I love some of the mini games in this. The fishing, I've really had a lot of fun with. It's fun, like the way that they've sort of turned some of these everyday things that you have into a little bit of a simulation, like cooking. You know, I mean, you got these guys out like making their way in the world, and so like you have to get food, and like the way that whole mechanic works is interesting because it provides you this really great buff. So you have like, you can stay at inns, at motels, you know. I mean, this is all Final Fantasy stuff. It's just, it's given such a weird coat of paint. But when you stay at an inn or a motel, you get extra experience. But when you camp, you like automatically cook some food that you have, and that gives you a buff. So it's sort of like, depending on how much XP you have stored up, you might want to like specifically seek out a motel to stay at, or if you like are like just about to go and do a whole bunch of, you know, quests or whatever, you might want to specifically go camping so that you can like get a stat boost without having to spend like maybe extra gil, because you can buy like food from diners also, but you know, the menus are also limited on those. So I don't know, there's interesting stuff that they've done with this. The characters are ultimately kind of likable. They're not especially well fleshed out, and I think you're expected to go and watch like some of the extra in order to flesh out the characters. I think there's like an anime with this that kind of fleshes out more of the characters that you're with, and there's also, I think there's a CG movie that goes along with this that kind of like introduces a lot of the main story. I don't think I mind that they did that. Sometimes the stories are just like stupid and convoluted in these Final Fantasy games anyway, and they're hard to follow. So in some ways with this, you're just kind of along for the ride. You know, nothing is particularly objectionable. It's like, and I kind of like, I mean, as the main character, you're playing like the prince of this country, and your whole deal is kind of like you're trying to hook up with this girl that you almost have an arranged marriage with, but I think like it seems like you two really, you might love each other, hopefully. I mean, I haven't actually finished this game quite yet, but it's sort of sweet, and the characters are kind of relatable. It's pretty good. In fact, I'm liking this game a lot. I almost feel like a little bad, not bad admitting that, but it's like I kind of didn't want to like this game because it seemed so odd. But once you play it, it's good. They've cribbed a lot of things from Dragon's Dogma, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of like the style of the world. I mean, it's not necessarily the style, but like the style of the like the world design, I guess. And you also have, so you have these dungeons that are like kind of, they're like dungeons from Dragon's Dogma. It kind of, I don't think that like the whole crafting system in Dragon's Dogma is super cool. They didn't like steal that. Just in general, if I had to say what does this feel like in terms of another contemporary RPG, it feels like Dragon's Dogma more than anything else. I mean, like Dragon's Dogma crossed with Final Fantasy XIII or something, you know. It's cool. It's a cool game. Lastly, I am actually just going to talk about one more game that I've tried this year, and that's sort of maybe just as a prelude to next year, where hopefully I'll have more to say about this, because I intend to come back to it and play some more. That is Zillions of Enemy X. I talked about this in a video really recently, and I was like, you know, let's pop it in, let's check it out. And I played through the whole tutorials, which actually, there's quite a bit of tutorializing in this, but I was able to follow the tutorials okay, like I understood how the game works, basically. So, you know, and honestly, like, the story segments get a little, like, funky with the vocabulary sometimes, but I can pretty much follow that, too. I like the character I picked so far. It's this dude here, and, like, he's like this, I don't know, he's like this nerdy scientist guy who's also like, he's kind of, I don't know, he's sort of cowardly, but like he's also really, I don't know, pedantic, and like he's got this, you get these I don't know what they are. They're these creatures from other worlds. So like basically the plot of this is that there's like all of these gates to these other worlds have opened up in various countries around the world. So like the U.S. has like gates to the, I don't know, the blue water world or something, and like Japan has a gate to the black world of darkness, and you know, stuff like that. So I'm sure it's like it ties into the cards, like you just have different colors of cards in a deck, you know, it's one of those things. But it is card-based combat. But it's pretty cool. I've enjoyed this so far, so hopefully I'll have more to say about this at a later date, assuming that I go back and play some more of it, which I intend to, because I've enjoyed what I've played so far. So that's that. I guess, you know, one thing I would say is, I feel like I owe you guys, like, probably a good 2 or 3 reviews out of these games. I fully intended to review, what do you call it there, Valhalla Knights 3. I would definitely review Soldner-X Final Prototype 2 or whatever it is. And, you know, I think Earthdawn and probably Final Fantasy XV are all things that I would intend to do reviews for. How many of those am I going to end up doing? Not this year, but hopefully maybe next year, I don't know. But we'll see. I wanted to at least give you guys my impressions of those. So I guess that brings us to what's my game of the year. Now, I feel like the strong contenders for this are Final Fantasy XV, which I've enjoyed a lot so far. What do you call it? Valhalla Knights 3, that I can't remember the name of, and probably Earthdawn, which has been a really interesting game. Now, out of those 3, I guess I would say, as of right now, and I feel like this is cheating because I haven't finished the game, it's Final Fantasy XV. Final Fantasy XV is just that big budget, big world, lots of stuff to do, you know, epic game from, you know, from last holiday, and it's, you know, it's been out in the past year, and I'm really enjoying it. I don't imagine that in the I'm on, well, I have a few chapters left to do, but I feel like I'm getting kind of close to the end. I can't imagine that the end is going to ruin it for me so much that it's not going to be my game of the year, especially since, you know, I will say this year was a little bit slim pickings in terms of, you know, I guess I would say sort of like big epic games that I really enjoyed. I think some of them were a little quirkier, which is okay. I do quirky games for games of the year. The Natural Doctrine, I think, is a quirky, interesting strategy game, and I loved that game. Loved it. But, I mean, something like Earthdawn, it's a really interesting, really good game that I've really been enjoying, but it's kind of budget. And I would say the same thing with Soldner-X, and I would say the same thing with Valhalla Knights 3. They're all kind of budget. And again, I wouldn't necessarily, like, not make a somewhat budget game my game of the year, but I think when it really comes down to it, you know, those bigger budget games, a lot of times you just get more bang out of, you know. It's a much more expansive, more interesting game, and I think that's just how it turned out with Final Fantasy XV for me this year. It's just a little more epic than some of those other games that I also really enjoyed this year. So I guess that's my video gaming year in review. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this, and I hope you'll join me again for more video game and anime related videos. Take care. Happy holidays.